Hello, and welcome to The Budget Mouse, a podcast that will help you plan an incredible Walt Disney World vacation, even if you're on a shoestring budget. I'm Leah Althizer, and I've been helping people save money at Disney World for the past 10 years through my websites, podcasts, and courses. I'm so glad you're here, and let's dive in. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to episode 106. A week ago today, I flew down to Orlando to go to the parks for one very busy day. And I was there really to get a lot of photos and videos and do research for my Instagram account, which I am trying to grow. If you are not following me already on Instagram, please come and find me. I'm at The Budget Mouse, easy to find. So I'm going to give you a rundown of how the trip went, everything I learned, which I always learn a lot on these trips, and generally how it went. I have lots of tips for you, particularly about Disney in the rain and park hopping and rental cars. So please keep listening if you want to know anything about that. I flew down and back on Delta in Comfort Plus, which is their premium economy, with miles, of course. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that's how I get around. If you haven't signed up for my free Introduction to Reward Travel course, I'm going to link it in the notes, or you can just go to the homepage, thebudgetmouse.com. In the menu, there's courses, and you can sign up for the free course there. And it will teach you the basics of flying for free with points and miles, which to me is the only way to do it. So I rented a car because I was staying at two different places over 2 nights. I was on a really tight schedule, lots of places to be, and I didn't want to be waiting on Ubers to get me around. And so I have some tips on rental cars if you also are in that situation. Maybe you're going over to Universal. I hear there's this other park in Orlando. I don't know. I've actually never been there. It's so embarrassing to say that, but it's true. So you might want to rent a car. First, you want to watch out for parking fees at hotels and resorts around Orlando. They are sneaky. Disney World has none. There, you won't pay to park it at any Disney hotels, except for the Swan and Dolphin and Swan Reserve, which are not run by Disney, but on Disney property. They charge very high parking fees. I think it's $30+ per day. So just be careful where you're staying, that you're not going to be surprised by that. Also, make sure you're picking up your car on the airport property. You will see rates that are lower to be shuttled, whatever. Don't do it. It's not worth the savings, the time and hassle and headache. I promise you, you'll regret it. It's not worth this. Not worth it. Also, regardless of where you make the reservation, like I made mine through a third party. I made it through Chase Travel Portal because I wanted to redeem points against it, and so it was free because I used my points. Regardless of where you make it, just whatever company you rent with, make sure you have signed up for their loyalty program, like directly with the company. This time I rented through Budget, so I made sure that I was signed up for Budget's loyalty program, and I made sure that my reservation was linked to my Budget loyalty account. You can do that after the fact, after you make it. The reason is it will allow you in most cases to bypass the rental counters at the airport, where when I walked past them, their lines were long and it wasn't even a busy time at the airport. So you really want to skip that. If you sign up with the rental company, you can usually go right out to the parking garage, and then they'll have a little window right there where your keys may be ready to go and waiting for you. You may have to wait at the window like I did because they can never seem to get my rental agreement out in time. I don't know why, but it will save you so much time and it doesn't cost anything. So be sure and do it. Something else that will save you money on your rental is they have a visitor toll pass program now. There's a vending machine. I love vending machines. There's a vending machine in the airport. You sign up ahead of time. You give visitor toll pass credit card. You tell them the details of your trip and you'll get a QR code. You pay a $10 deposit just to get the hang tag, and you have to pick it up there at the airport, but from the vending machine. You scan the QR code once you get there. Make sure your airplane mode is turned off. Like I went to the machine and I was like, it's not working. It's not working. Because my airplane mode was still on my silly phone. So turn it off. Scan the QR code, you'll get a hang tag, and you hang that in your rear view mirror. And what it does is you'll just pay the toll amount for going through any tolls in Greater Orlando, and there are many, and you won't have to pay the rental car company. You can decline their toll program, whatever it is. You pay like a minimum of $10 per day or whatever it is. If you remember to return the hang tag, then you will get that $10 back credited to your credit card, And the only thing you end up paying is just for the tolls, which are not very much money. I mean, $1.50 here, $2 there. So definitely do that if you're renting a car, especially if you're going to be there for a while, because those daily add-ons to take advantage of the toll program from the rental car really add up. Anything else? Oh, yeah. When you're returning the rental car, a big stress point for me is, where do I fill up with gas before I return it? And Orlando Airport is super easy. There is a place to refill right before you enter the airport. It's just easy on and off. There's a gas station right there. So that takes a lot of the stress out of it. You don't have to find it. Just wait right till you get the airport, refill there and return it. So the first night I got in kind of late. I just wanted to stay somewhere cheap because I was just crashing there for the night. So I had many IHG points. And so I've been wanting to check out this Holiday Inn Express Lake Buena Vista that's close to Disney for a while now, because there's no parking fees. There's also no resort fees, and that's hard to find. Also, there are only 23,000 IHG points per night, which is really good value. So, if you're really limited and you want to stay a night there, or you want to stay your whole vacation there, then it's a really good choice in terms of an off-property resort. It was meh. It's not good. I mean, I'm always comparing off-property resorts to Disney World, and at the same price point. I mean, I booked it with points, but say it's $120 a night. You could stay at a value resort for $120 a night, same price, and your experience is going to be, I'm not kidding you, 10 times better. So anytime I stay here, I do it for research. I do it to save some money because I've been to all of the Disney resorts before, but every time I do, I think these people, they don't know, like they're staying here and they think this is what Disney World is like, but it really could be so much better. Take your money. Maybe you'll have to pay $20 or $30 more a night, but oh my God, it'll 10x your vacation. So that's my soapbox about staying on property, which I will always be on because the experience is so much better. I have details about that later. So I saw in the forecast that it was going to be a washout the one day that I was there. And, the 10-day forecast, it was the only day it was going to rain all day. And I will say this is not very common in Florida that it rains all day like that. It's often intermittent and just an afternoon shower, but I just happened to hit an all-day rain out. So I had to come prepared. My suggestions for dealing with Disney in the rain are this. I think a quality raincoat is better than an umbrella, and it's better than a poncho. I had a really nice Patagonia raincoat that I got on Poshmark. Hey, that's a good place to get a nice raincoat before you go on your trip if you think you're going to encounter rain. But it had a nice hood that came fully up over my face. It kept my face dry. It was completely waterproof, not water repellent. And wow, I stayed totally dry. And I got rained on the whole day. And I was in the parks like 14 hours and I stayed dry. So it was really a good thing to have. My main problem, though, where I messed up were my shoes. I just wore some Skechers and they were soaked within 20 minutes of being there. And then I had wet feet all day and it led to blisters on my feet. So I saw people, the brightest people there, the most prepared people there. I shouldn't say brightest. The most prepared people there had essentially galoshes on their sneakers, and they're like zip up waterproof shoe covers, and their feet stayed dry and they were comfortable. So the thing about wearing like rain boots is, they're not very comfortable. If you're just wearing your Hunter rain boots to the parks, you don't want to do that. You want to be in your comfortable walking shoes, but waterproof. So I wished I had taken my waterproof hiking shoes, which I have, but I was like, that's overkill. I won't need it. I should have taken them. I needed it. So I went on Amazon to find these great shoes because some people even had them in yellow. And so they looked like Mickey and Minnie Mouse with their yellow giant feet. It was so cute. So I suggest this strongly. If you see a day in your vacation, because you could get a 2-pack for $20. I mean, they're not expensive and it will save your feet. Make not for a miserable day. More about Disney in the rain. I brought this umbrella with me too, because I wanted to be prepared, but I ended up only using it one time when it was pouring down rain and I had a cold brew coffee in my hand and I wanted to walk around the parks with my cold brew coffee and I didn't want it to get rained on So I used my umbrella that one time, but otherwise because of my raincoat, it was so good. I didn't need the umbrella. And when I went through security at 2 out of the 3 parks I went to, I got stopped from security because of the umbrella and they had to scan my bag and took all this extra time. So I'm fan raincoat. Not umbrella, not needed. Generally on a day like this, you're going to see lower crowds overall, which I definitely did, but don't get confused by that. There was still 75-minute waits at peak times for the most popular rides that regardless of the day, You're going to have long waits at Disney World. The key is dodging them. And I have more to say on that later, which I successfully did. So don't think that because it's a rainy day, you're not going to see any long lines. You will. However, as the day goes on and people get more miserable and wet, they start to leave, and they'll leave early. So later in the day, you will definitely see lower waits than average on a rainy day. And that was the case at Magic Kingdom. I saw the fireworks at Magic Kingdom at 8:00, and then the park stayed open until 10. After the fireworks, which it poured down rain in the fireworks, and they still had it. So it might be a question you have. Do they still have the fireworks in the rain at Disney World? And for the most part, it is yes, unless it's like severe thunderstorms or lightning or whatever, and then they won't. But just rain, they will have them. So after the fireworks, I stayed in Magic Kingdom, stayed up until 10, and no one was there. I walked onto every single ride that I wanted to go on. I didn't need any lightning lanes. I didn't need anything. So if you're willing to hang out later on a rainy day, you will be rewarded with short waits later in the day. So clearly I did some park hopping this day as I was trying to get footage for a lot of places. And I just wanted to speak to that for a moment. Like generally, I don't recommend park hopping if you're on a family vacation and you want to go to 3 parks on your vacation. I say do 1 park, take a day off, do another park, take a day off, take breaks in between, but just do 1 park a day. But if you are a regular park goer and you want to park hop, these are my recommendations for park hopping. The easiest parks to hop between are Magic Kingdom and Epcot because they're connected by the monorail, and Hollywood Studios and Epcot because they're connected by both the Friendship boats and the Skyliner. So easy way to get back and forth. Now, something I couldn't find on the internet before I went on my trip was, is there a bus that goes from the front entrance of Epcot back to Hollywood Studios? No one on the internet knew. So I went and found out there is, in fact, a bus that goes from the front entrance of Epcot back to Hollywood Studios. Because what I did, this was my day, flow of my day. I parked my car at Hollywood Studios. I was there until a little after noon. I took the Skyliner from Hollywood Studios to Epcot. I worked my way from the back entrance of Epcot, because that's where the Skyliner drops you, all through Epcot to the front. Then I took the bus from the front of Epcot back to Hollywood Studios to get my car. I drove the car to my resort, which I'll talk about in a sec. Then I left the car at the resort and I rested for 2 hours minimum rest time. And then I took the bus from there to Magic Kingdom for the night, saw the fireworks, did the rides, came back. So that's my advice with park hopping. It's also that you need to leave lots of time. It will take longer than you think. It always does. I think, how long will it take on the Skyliner? Man, what's it, 10, 15 minutes? No, 27 minutes from door to door on the Skyliner to go from Hollywood Studios to Epcot. And that was with no waiting. The Skyliner did stop for a few minutes, as it tends to do, but it's a long trip. It's about the same on the Friendship boats. They say about 30 minutes on the Friendship boats. And that's if you catch a boat right when it's there. Sometimes you could wait up to 20 minutes for a Friendship boat. So leave 30 to 45 minutes, I say, for park hopping. And that's why I discourage it for the most part when people are trying to navigate Disney transportation. It's very confusing. Just stick with 1 park a day and save the money too, because it's quite a bit of additional money to add the park hopper option to your ticket. I want to talk about my resort for a minute. I stayed at Port Orleans Riverside. I booked it pretty last minute. It was available on Priceline. And there are 3 room types very distinctly different room types at Port Orleans Riverside. There are the royal rooms, and they are princess-themed rooms. They're spectacular. Those are some of the farthest rooms from the main building. There are the mansion rooms, Magnolia Bend rooms, which sleep 4 and 2 queens. And then there are Woods View 5th sleeper rooms, which are in the Alligator Bayou section of the resort, and those all sleep 5. There is a twin bed that's like a little Murphy bed that folds down for an extra bed in those rooms. And I had never stayed in the Alligator Bayou rooms. I'd stayed in the others, so that's where I stayed, and it was fantastic. The rooms are spacious, clean, everything works. Everything is so great. The Disney resorts, I love it. The resort itself is beautiful because it's quite an old resort. It opened in 1992 as Dixie Landings. Some of you might remember, and was open as Dixie Landings until 2001, when it changed into Port Orleans Riverside, sister resort to Port Orleans French Quarter. Because those 2 are sister resorts, it means you can use the pool and amenities at either resort if you're staying at one of them. So that's cool. And that gives you 2 feature pools to experience. And they're very different feature pools. They're both super fun. That's just an added perk of staying there. The transportation was quick. There are 4 internal bus stops at Riverside. There's only 1 bus stop at French Quarter, which is why some people prefer it. It's a smaller resort. And but overall, great experience. The quick service food, I had breakfast there. It was outstanding. Everything was great. Last, I want to talk about my touring strategy for the parks, since I was able to do a ton in one day. I thought you probably will have questions. So I did buy multi-pass for Hollywood Studios because that was the first park I was visiting. I then used multi-pass at all 3 parks I went to that day. So people do often wonder, if I buy it at Hollywood Studios, can I only use it there? No. Once you tap in for your first Lightning Lane multi-pass selection, then you can start making other selections in any park that you plan to go to later in the day. I also bought single pass for Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy because they are some of my favorite rides and I wanted to do them later in the day. I did rope drop at Hollywood Studios. I got to the parks the earliest I've ever gotten to the parks, and people often wonder, how early can you get to the parks? So the parking lots open 90 minutes before the park officially opens. So at 7:30 a.m., I was there at the parking gates, and there were 2 cars in front of me, and we were waiting. They won't even let you approach the parking gates. There's like police officer type people holding traffic back until it turns 7:30, and then they let you approach the ticket booth. I felt a little kooky going this early. I was like, this is the hardcore crowd that is getting here at 7:30, and I'm usually not that crowd. But I was able to park. Now, I hadn't been to my resort yet. I had checked in online for my resort, but I hadn't been there yet. They were still able to scan my Magic Band, and I was able to park for free because I was staying at the Disney Resort that night. So good to know if you want to do the same crazy thing that I did. Now, when did they let you into Hollywood Studios? So I parked and then approached the entrance gates. Now, before they let me kind of pass the ticket booths, they scanned my Magic Band again to make sure that I was able to get in for early entry. And since they let me go past the ticket booths to line up at where the entrance is. Okay, so all the people that are past that point do have early entry. If you don't, they make you wait back there until 8, and then they'll let you line up, move forward and line up. So Hollywood Studios, though, early entry doesn't start until 8:30. At 8, they will let you in and let you start lining up for whatever ride you're going to go on first. Then when early entry starts at 8:30. So if the opening time is different, then you just have to adjust these times. But it's an hour before official opening. They will let people with early entry into the park. And then at 8:30, they'll let you on to a ride. Well, in fact, that ends up being earlier often, as it was the case today. My plan was to rope drop Slinky Dog Dash. I've never done it before. I wanted to see how it goes. But as I approached it, there was a cast member saying that they were going to have a delayed opening at Slinky Dog, I guess due to the rain. And I had to make a choice at that moment. Do I get in line and wait for Slinky Dog to come up and get on? Or do I go and do some other attractions and then come back to Slinky Dog later in the day? Because I knew that the lines would never get ridiculously long at Slinky Dog, I expected maybe a 45-minute wait later in the morning after started running. I thought, well, I'm going to rope drop a Toy Story Mania, which didn't have any more Lightning Lane multi-pass selections available for later in the day. It's a pretty high demand ride. So I got in line for Toy Story Mania, and at 8:16 they let us in. And I was on and off the ride by 8:30, and I was able to go and do the saucers, alien swirling saucers. I was the only one on it. I felt very silly, but this is the key at Disney World, is doing the opposite of what the crowds do. So when you find yourself on a ride by yourself, it's a good sign because, later in the day, that ride's going to be 40-minute wait. And it was when I walked past it later that morning. But I was the only one on it then because I was doing the opposite of what everyone else was doing. So I got off Swirling Saucers and I went and also rode Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway before the park even opened to everyone else. So I got 3 rides in the first, technically half an hour, though it was 40 minutes of early entry. Then I was able to go tap in for my burner ride. So you may have to go back and listen to another episode about burner rides. This is the concept of having a very early return time for your first Lightning Lane selection, tapping into it. I didn't even go on the attraction because it was for the Frozen sing-along, which I wasn't going to do that day because I was just there to ride rides. But it was a really good burner ride because all I had to do was just like approach the theater, tap in, and then I could just walk away. And then the key to this is then you can make changes to your current lightning lane selections. And I was able to make them earlier. So the earlier you use your lightning lanes, then the more valuable they are, because then as soon as you use one, you can make another one. And then I was able to adjust them to tier 1 attractions as well. So going in advance, you can only have one tier 1 attraction selected. But as soon as you tap in, you can have them all be tier 1 attractions. That requirement goes away. I was able to ride every ride at Hollywood Studios except for Rise of the Resistance before noon, and that was because of a good touring plan. Now, in my new Disney World Visual Guidebook, I give you touring plans for dodging the crowds at the parks, because I know the crowds move in very predictable ways. I know where they're going to go at what time of day. It's not hard. There's readily available data on this as well out there. So I have crafted these touring plans for you to dodge the crowds just like I do. And because you are listening this long into this podcast about me ramble about Disney World, you can get $10 off the guidebook if you enter the code podcast10. That's all one word, podcast10 at checkout. And that brings it down to only $29. And you will get so much value from this guidebook. I'll put a link to the guidebook in the show notes, but you can also go to thebudgetmouse.com, go to courses from the menu, and then you can get to it there as well. After that, I went over to Epcot. I took the Skyliner, like I said. I went to check out the Remy's Ratatouille Adventure single rider line, which is a newer development. I wanted to see how long the wait was going to be for it. So Remy's had a 70-minute wait at this point in time. And I went into the single rider line and it looked very long. And I was like, I don't know. So the woman in front of me went and asked a cast member and was like, how long is this? And they said probably a 30-minute wait. And I just didn't want to wait 30 minutes to ride it. So this is a useful strategy because if you're willing to be separated from your party, you just cut the wait time from 70 to 30 minutes. I just personally didn't want to wait 30 minutes for the ride. I've been on it so many times, but keep that in mind. It is a viable option. So I snacked my way around Epcot and went and rode Guardians of the Galaxy with my single pass. I then rode Living with the Land, my second favorite ride after Guardians. Don't know what that says about me, that my two favorite rides are polar opposites. And then I did Soarin' and I did Moana's Journey of Water before I trudged to the front entrance of Epcot because I was pretty tired at this point. So after the fireworks at Magic Kingdom, which I was able to get a great spot for because, again, not many people were there. I was right in front of the castle. I only got there 15 minutes before the show. I usually aim to be there about 20 minutes before the show and don't expect to not get such a good spot. But if it's a normal crowd level, I think you're safe with that. People ask me that a lot, how early to get there. So after the fireworks, I was able to do the People Mover, Buzz Lightyear, Haunted Mansion, Tiana's Bayou-Venture, Pirates of the Caribbean, and then there was still time, but I was so tired, I just quit. So I went on over 20 attractions that day with this good touring strategy. So I hope this podcast helps you navigate Disney World on your next trip. And thank you so much for listening. Oh, and can I ask a big favor? Because I have 99 reviews on Apple Podcasts, and I really would like just one more to get to 100 so I can have 3 digits on my podcast reviews. Could you take a second and just give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts? It doesn't have to be long. Just say if it was helpful to you or not. Thanks again.